Research Professional series. We're going to be presenting a new program. Speaking today will be Angela Sau, who is the Clinical Research Manager for the CCTS Participant Clinical Interactions Program and Network Capacity Program, as well as Michael Hinton, who is the Project Manager of Research Navigation in the Department of Clinical Research Operations for the Comprehensive Cancer Center. Both of these individuals have over 10 years of experience in the research arena at The Ohio State University. So Angela, Michael, are you ready to start?
Yes, thank you very much.
Yes, thanks.
Yes, thank you, Karen, for the lovely introduction. Good morning, everyone. Michael and I today, we're going to talk with you, as Karen just mentioned, about diversity, equity, and inclusion, specifically really for clinical research professionals. But we are going to kind of start out with a much more higher level view and kind of work our ways down to things going on here at Ohio State. So with that said, I did want to talk a little bit about the NIH. As the nation's medical research agency, as you know, the NIH plays an integral role in advancing diversity, equity, and inclusion in clinical research through a multitude of different mechanisms. You know, they release multiple funding opportunities. They have their various workforce training programs. There's you know, countless efforts to increase diversity and inclusion with respect to recruitment and retention, other diversity-centric initiatives across their various institutes, offices, and centers. And they're really also one of the biggest things that we'll touch on a little bit later is trying to build the evidence that's needed to kind of show that why this is so important. So we're going to start with just their statement. And they do have a pretty lengthy statement here, but it's pretty important. And I won't read it all to you, but essentially they're saying that every aspect of the scientific research enterprise, from basic research all the way through translational research, it does require, you know, a wide range of skill sets and viewpoints in order to have, you know, the most valuable end product. And so the NIH, excuse me, the NIH's ability to help ensure that, you know, we remain a global leader in scientific discovery means that they do recognize the need for a very diversified body of scientists. And just to continue on that note, this is the rest of their statement here, but essentially they're, you know, recognize that diversity, having diverse teams leads to much better products than homogenous teams. And, you know, scientists and trainees and really just the entire workforce, the science can only be enhanced with more and more diversity. And so they're here, you can see on this second statement about the fostering scientific innovation, enhancing global competitiveness, and contributing to a robust learning environments. And all of these things here just further emphasize the need for diversity and inclusion. And so next, I did want to talk just about a few of some very high level recent NIH initiatives. One of which was just started 3 months ago. It's the Unite initiative. And excuse me, this was established to address structural racism and promote equitable representation and inclusion at NIH and throughout the larger biomedical research enterprise. It is comprised of 5 distinct committees with congruent objectives to address racism and discrimination in science while developing methods to promote diversity inclusion across the biomedical enterprise. We'll go through the various committees a little bit. So these 5 committees, they conveniently enough, or they are, each committee stands for what their major project is, and it goes with their acronym Unite. So the committee U, their objective is really to perform a broad systemic self-evaluation of the NIH to identify elements that perpetuate structural racism and lead to a lack of diversity, equity, and inclusion within the NIH, and also within just the external scientific committee, committee in is focused on addressing longstanding health disparities and issues related to minority health inequities in the United States by ensuring NIH-wide transparency, accountability, and sustainability in marshaling resources for health disparity, minority health, and health equity research. Committee I is an NIH organizational structure that is really dedicated to promoting diversity, equity, and inclusion throughout the workforce. Committee T is there to ensure transparency, accountability, and sustainability of all Unite efforts amongst internal and external stakeholders. And Committee E is there to coordinate NIH-wide efforts and communicate findings from other Unite committees to internal and external stakeholders and the public. Another large initiative that started back in 2015 is the Diversity Program Consortium. This is started in 2014, sorry. It's a network of institutions funded by the NIH to improve training and mentoring and to enhance individual success in biomedical research careers. This initiative aims to transform institutional culture in biomedical training and mentoring nationwide. It does consist of students, faculty, staff, and leaders from many disciplines and institutions that are all aimed at enhancing diversity in the biomedical workforce. And ultimately, these efforts should help to engage a more diverse field of individuals in biomedical research careers. And earlier I spoke to the evidence that the NIH is building. One of their very large ongoing initiatives was established in 2015, and it's called the All of Us Research Program. And as you know, medical research hasn't always been fully representative of the rich diversity of our nation. And so this program is committed to doing things differently by enrolling individuals of many different races, ethnicities, and walks of life. The hope is that the more we know what makes each person unique, the more customized healthcare can become. They are seeking over 1 million volunteers to share their genetic and health data, so that way researchers can study really the intersectionality of biology, lifestyle, and environment affecting health, ultimately contributing to the betterment of public health. And then I just wanted to highlight and really emphasize just how much work is going on the national level. As you know, the NIH has over 27 institutes and a number of centers and more offices. And so there are, many of you in your respective divisions may be working on NIH funded grants and be familiar with some of these different offices and the different funding opportunities and things like this that come out. And I would encourage you, if you're interested and you're working, with investigators that do a lot of NIH funded research, to even subscribe to their news and important updates along with the funding opportunities. And these are just a few more. I did just want to highlight the National Institute on Minority Health and Health Disparities. So this is an entire institute, NIH institute, that is dedicated to leading scientific research to improve minority health and reduce health disparities. And to accomplish this, they are planning, coordinating, reviewing NIH minority health and health disparities research and activities. They conduct research in minority health and health disparities, also promoting training of diverse research workforce, and really helping to foster innovative collaborations and partnerships. And also, I would just draw attention to the Office of Extramural Research, because this one, you'll on the next slide, you'll see, is one of the largest grants. We do have one of the largest grants here at OSU. It's from this office. So the National Center for Advancing Translational Science, NCATS, supports and encourages diversity, including race, ethnicity, sex, and gender, socioeconomic status, geographic location, and disability status at each stage of the spectrum. NCATS does have the Clinical and Translational Science Award program, and this is the largest extramural program at NIH. Roughly about 60 institutes across the country have a CTSA award, and we do have one here as well. And really, as you know, in order to be an awardee of this program, it's required that your site, that you work to promote the integration and underrepresented populations in their research, as well in their training and career development programs. And so our CTSA award is the CCTS, the Center for Clinical and Translational Science. This is an institutional umbrella resource for investigators across the university, including all of the health science colleges, College of Engineering, the Medical Center, Nationwide Children's Hospital, and numerous community health and education agencies. The CCTS provides financial, organizational, and educational support to biomedical researchers, as well as opportunities for community members to participate in credible and valuable research. The CCTS is comprised of over a dozen programs, all of which have various DEI initiatives. The two programs in particular, the Participant Clinical Interactions Program and the Workforce Development Program, came together earlier this year to really look across the spectrum at what all is being done currently at Ohio State, and how can we kind of improve and add to the discussion and initiatives that are going on. And one of the things that we identified as being in need was to actually develop a task force really dedicated towards clinical research professionals, with an emphasis on actual staff. There are, as you're aware, there are many different DEI activities going on, most centered from the Office of Diversity here at Ohio State. But this is a program, or this is an initiative that is really bringing these two programs together, along with my partner, Michael Hinton, in the Comprehensive Cancer Center, to try to chair and get a task force up and going. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to Michael.
Hi, yes. So that really raised the question for us when we began working together: what is diversity and inclusion? So a good way to look at it is that diversity is really who we are as individuals, and inclusion is a state of being valued, respected, and supported. So the things that make us similar or different from each other include what are listed: our national origins, languages spoken, races, disabilities, ethnicities, gender, religion, sexual orientation, and so on. And then inclusion is about focusing on the needs of every individual, ensuring that the right conditions are in place for each of us to reach our own full potential in the workplace, and as patients having access to research opportunities as well. Next slide. Yes. So what is equity? Equity is defined as the state of quality or ideal of being just, impartial, and fair. So it is synonymous with fairness and justice. It's not simply a desired state of affairs or a lofty value. And most people are becoming more aware this year that it's also thought of as a structural and systemic concept. If you look at the picture on the left, I feel, or excuse me, on the right, it really encompasses that. If you notice on the left, everyone is provided the same pedestal, though each person is, of course, of varying height. where the group on the right has the pedestal accommodated to their individual differences in height to reach the apples. I think this illustrates, therefore, that the goal is for all to achieve the same outcome, but the methods or experience were tailored to each individual for them to all succeed as a group. So equality is, again, that everyone is given the same stepping stone where they might not have the resources and capacity quite yet to reach the goal, where equity is meeting everyone where they're at and pulling the whole group towards desirable outcomes. So what does this mean? I came across 3 really great quotes that I believe kind of help put these definitions into perspective. So the first is, people aren't diverse, but teams and companies must be. Oftentimes people may assume that an individual would be seen as a diverse candidate or a diverse research subject. What that can imply is that they may be perceived as a part of a non-dominant or less privileged group. This could be from being a different race or gender, disability or education level, or someone who may be a non-English speaker. But doing so can have the undertone that these individuals somehow deviate from what is quote unquote normal or typical. I believe instead diversity more so reflects the composition of an entire entity, such as a classroom, employees within a business, or participants in a study, rather than the individual themselves. The next quote, treating everyone equally maintains inequity. So it really starts with equity being designed for. So treating everyone equally means treating them the same, but treating people equitably is putting the focus on individual needs. We all may or may not have many different types of opportunities or resources available to us. And equity takes into account inherent imbalances within systems or processes and really evaluates what is required for all to succeed. Oftentimes this is based in social, economic, demographical, or geographical constraints. As well, as humans, we have a tendency to gravitate towards people or things that are similar or familiar, and that sometimes allows us to overlook the journeys and needs of everyone else. And lastly, inclusion doesn't just happen, we have to design for it. So there's another great quote that I came across that says, diversity is an invitation to the party where inclusion is being asked to dance. So when we do that, we create the opportunity for valuing all individuals and showing an appreciation for uniqueness and the experience of everyone individually. Inclusion, again, does not just occur on its own, but rather it's an outcome of diversity itself. So what are the DEI best practices that groups or organizations can take on? It's establishing a sense of belonging, adopting diversity as a business model. Of course, it always helps to implement these approaches from a leadership down approach, and offering equal growth opportunities to all, primarily those that are based on merit alone. And adding resources and groups that provide support to each other, gathering employee feedback, because that will drive a lot of the direction that the initiatives should take. Prioritizing multi-generational workforces. I recently was reading an article where we are the most diverse workforce by age. We technically have 3 generations all working simultaneously. That would be the baby boomers, the millennials, and Gen Z. So it creates a very different dynamic that has been in the workplace previously. It's also important to restructure how to better recruit and retain diverse staff or research subjects, support minorities in the workplace, educate others on diversity and inclusion, and popularizing the use of allies and advocates. So there is a slight difference between the group, though anybody can be both. It's important to highlight that allies are people who ask questions and share ideas, where advocates are those that bring about change and new policy that can be implemented across an organization. Of course, any endeavor can have snags or obstacles along the way. It's important to expect that these could be a possibility and to prepare in advance. So some common challenges could be aligning diversity practices to the organization itself. That could be a large task. It could be a large system or a company that you're working for. So that can play a factor, of course. And then moving from design to implementation, it's to kind of create something that's physical and moving takes a large effort from many people, and that can seem overwhelming. But it is important to bring about this change incrementally and as necessary. And then overcoming bias, even subconscious bias. As mentioned in the previous slide, we're all creatures of habit, and that includes our thoughts or our subconscious belief system. So it's important to be present and aware of impact personally and externally. And then understanding that there can be internal resistance to change. Large goals can sometimes feel insurmountable, especially when important or far-reaching, but it's important to remember what's at stake for some and what is really a value for all of us. And then Angela, I'll let you take back over.
Sure, sorry, I was talking while on mute. So to pick back up and to introduce really the task force, I will say that Michael and we worked with a number of senior research professionals across OSU to kind of get their input in shaping the mission and vision. But really the mission for this task force is for clinical research professionals. Is to support, develop, and promote a research environment that is diverse, inclusive, and equitable for staff, patients, and students. Our vision is that we'd like to increase collaboration across various disciplines and fields in order to foster the strategic planning and approaches necessary to achieving a fuller representation of minorities in a pipeline for opportunity. And so we do have 6 primary aims. One of which is just connections. We'd hope to really stimulate connections amongst minorities and allies through the sharing of collective experiences, tips, and recommendations for improvement. As I mentioned earlier, there is so much going on across OSU and Nationwide Children's Hospital right now, looking at improving different structural inequities. And so we would also hope to be able to review different structural inequities within our local research environments and really reflect on current endeavors to address inequities and see whether or not we come up with some additional input that we would like to kind of share and just to kind of further strengthen other endeavors going on. Also, as you know, Michael touched on, it's very important, right, to have both advocates and allies. And so we do hope to have leadership champions across OSU and Nationwide Children's Hospital that are capable of providing insights and helping to generate positive change. One of the things that, another thing that we'd really like to see come out of this task force is really just to showcase various ladders of opportunity. We hope to provide a forum for discussion of career ladders and opportunities in the field of clinical research across both institutions. We are, and I'll touch on that a little bit, actually on my very next slide. Mentorship actually is one of the things too that we would like to have be an important component of this task force. We would like to facilitate these opportunities between senior and junior clinical research professionals. I think Michael's going to talk a little bit more about that. And then finally, just the enriched pipeline. So we definitely would like to think of ways to engage students at various levels of their education in order to really increase awareness of the clinical research professional, thereby enriching that pipeline. And so to our 4th aim regarding ladders of opportunity, one of the things that we are hoping to get up and going is the Day in the Life series. And this would be a virtual event showcasing various clinical research related professions at OSU and NCH. During these, we would hope to have 1 to 2 speakers present engaging overviews of their current positions and their paths taken to arrive there. And just, we think that this is important because very often people come in into an entry-level position, and it can be, you could have a very narrow scope in which you're working in. And, there's just so many different opportunities, and there's so many different paths, and there's so many different related professions. And so it would be nice to be able to kind of publicize this and give people ideas and also help to stimulate connections.
Yes, with the mentorship program, we really want it to be up to the mentor and mentee to kind of decide what their relationship direction is going to be. Of course, Angela and I will always be present throughout the experience as a whole, but we want to match individuals based on fields of interest or their current position. As touched on, there would be senior versus junior. So mentors have at least 7 years of experience, where mentees are a little bit more on the novice side and have 0 to 5 years experience. But it's a place to gain advice and insights on current or possible future career paths, how to grow professionally, maybe where education should go based on wish lists. And then, of course, as she touched on, Angela, workplace opportunities. So connection will help with that as well. And then the time, the location or medium, if it's via email or phone or Zoom or in person, that will be determined independently with the mentor and mentee. And then Angela and I would have routine check-ins, and there's always the possibility of working with more than one mentor, as touched on, to get a different feel of the various positions that are available in an institution like OSU and nationwide. And then another important goal is for the task force to help support a broader representation of minorities across research patients. This really increases the possible, this reduces possible limitations based on benefit and an understanding of researchers on the interventional impact on various populations. So by not including the genetic risk factors and public health concerns of less represented groups, it brings about the question, how well are treatments really improving the health of all? I think it might have been briefly mentioned on in previous CRPTS presentations, where Caucasians make up 67% of the US population, but are 83% of research participants. African Americans make up 13.4%, but are only 5% of trial participants. And even less, those who are Hispanic or Latino represent 18.1% of the population, but are less than 1% of trial participants. So increasing a presence and representation across the board for all races and ethnicities and disabilities really does greaten the chance for true benefit from interventions or treatments that become available in the future and down the pharmaceutical pipeline. So further benefit for individuals and teams, it really increases more opportunity for a sense of belonging and feeling valued. Having DI initiatives increase when patients and staff see themselves represented in leaders and people who provide care. It raises general engagement, communication, and trust, which is vital in a health setting. And it ensures respect and authenticity by everyone being able to truly be themselves. Therefore, all of these really do lead to improved physical and mental health, both for staff members, for leaders, and for patients. In a team perspective, it brings about the chance for broader collaboration and team building. It's also been shown to improve decision-making by 60%. And with that, along also comes more innovation and creativity. The organizations also benefit. They gain new perspectives that create a much richer, nuanced experience. They help with aligning practices and processes with the organization's missions and values. It creates a wider talent pool to pull from, and then also, most importantly, sustain over time. And then, of course, the goal that everybody wishes as a staff member, it raises employee satisfaction, even increasing as well profit by 14.4% on average. So benefit truly is for all, and this is at the patient, individual, team, and organizational level.
So thank you so much, Angela and Michael. And we do have time. You can either, if you have particular questions, feel free to maybe unmute yourself and ask the question, or you can put a question into um, the chat box and we can see if um, I can read it to them. I did have a question as to how individuals, if they wish to be part of the mentoring group, I am assuming that they would reach out to Angela and Michael. How are you going to kind of get that started?
Yes, that is a correct assumption, Karen. We will be releasing information about our first event through the CCTS newsletter. And we're also going to be looking at various other forums to kind of get the word out. And yes, if you are interested and you feel free to reach out directly to myself and Michael, and we will definitely get you started.
And so there was another question is how can CRPs become involved with the task force in general?
Yes, yeah. So once the announcement comes out, we hope to be able to have monthly meetings. And so we are going to release kind of when our first initial monthly meeting will be, so towards the end of next month, July. And then we would be picking up, right now our plan is to have actual wider events that would go through just really open to the entire med center, Children's Hospital, but then also the other various colleges doing human subjects research, like that Day in the Life series that will be advertised and should hopefully occur at least quarterly. That is our goal. But that monthly meeting would be a good time to kind of check in and learn more and become engaged with the task force. If for whatever reason you're unable to make the first meeting, you can reach out to myself and Michael, and we will definitely kind of get you up to speed and try to work to fold you in.
Okay, we also have something. Have you reached out to the various employee resource groups at the Wexner? Many CRPs are already involved in those.
Yes, so that's a really good question. So we are in the process of doing this. So really the origins for this is really coming out of a push from specifically the CCTS to really increase the amount of diversity initiatives that are going on within their respective programs. However, we are cognizant that there are other opportunities and other endeavors going on. And so we are, as this kind of picks up, going to be engaging those teams and making sure that things aren't duplicative, and where I think the efforts can kind of be combined, we'll look for those opportunities as well.
Well, thank you. So are there any other questions? If not, I just have a few announcements. But thank you so much. How do you envision opportunities for the pipeline?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So one of the things that I know we've talked about doing is going to various job fairs. We would hope that task force members and other volunteers would be interested in going to different job fairs. And I know that there was, even for incoming freshmen each year, they do various I want to say like events where they'll have faculty and staff come and talk about the different positions that they have within the university. And so we see these sorts of things getting out, being, kind of the low hanging fruit where we can go and people could talk about their job and why they're passionate about what they do. And, also just try to be a resource for young students. I think additionally, beyond that, one of the things that we've talked about is trying to potentially have like different internships, partnering with the Masters of Clinical Research program that the Workforce Development and CCTS supports and champions, and having that also be a mechanism to kind of engage students. But we are definitely open to ideas. This is in its infancy. And so if there are other ideas or suggestions, we would definitely love to hear them.
Okay. Thank you.
Great questions. Thank you.
So as the day goes on, as the week goes on, if you have any further questions, as Angela stated, this is a kickoff, so to speak. So they are obviously open to suggestions. This is a program for the work groups. So make your voice heard. As far as a couple of other things, we have scheduled an on-site SOCR examination for September the 29th. Deadline for registration is August 18th. This will all come out in the follow-up email. We will be starting the certification work groups or study groups starting next week. Tuesdays evenings will be for SOCRA. Thursday evenings will be ACRP. They'll be beginning at about 7:30 via Zoom. Also, there is going to be an update to the OSU HIPAA policy, and there is a meeting scheduled for Thursday, June 17th through the ORRP. And if you'd be interested in that, there will be information as well concerning that with the slide deck that's sent out today. So any other questions? Anonymous question. Going back to the training topics, what are your suggestions for improving DEI in clinical research? For example, engaging those minority groups who don't generally participate in research. That is a key question.
Oh, that is a key question. Well, and I would invite kind of Michael to also take a stab at this one, but I think that there are so many different ways to kind of address this issue. And I'm hoping that really all of our different aims will help to get at that issue. For example, if there is more representation, I think studies have shown that people are more likely to commit, or at least more likely to be open to what you're talking about in terms of participating in research. And I think some of that is just if you do have a more diverse workforce, and if the research coordinator or research assistant in some aspects, can identify very closely with the community, I think that helps to improve diversity. But yeah, no, I think that all of these different things in culmination will help to get at that. I think, like you said, this is a key question, and I'm drawing a blank if there's something else, but I don't know if Michael, if you wanted to add anything.
Yes, of course, we would always be happy being a resource to some extent within our own individual capacities, but we've already had conversations and have gotten the opinions of those who work kind of in this capacity in the system already. So I believe both the Wexner and Cancer Center sides have departments that are tailored to diversity from a patient perspective. So they would probably have insights to the community as a whole, and then the health beliefs and practices of individual groups. So we would definitely like to also be able to connect the current resources and departments that are there to support all of these individual wish lists and goals of different areas of the hospital.
Thank you. I agree. I don't know that there's any one answer. I think it's going to be a community that answers that. But I think that education at all levels is helpful, or maybe not education, but an awareness. I think sometimes it's the awareness that there is an issue and that it needs to be overcome. So we thank you both so much for joining today and for presenting the DEI Task Force for Clinical Research Professionals and for anyone. If you have further questions, please reach out to Angela and to Michael or myself. There will be, the slide deck will come out later today as usual, with Rachel following up with CEUs for those who need it. Other than that, I wish you all the best of a day. I'm not sure what we're going to get weather-wise, but we do live in Ohio, so it's always a question. Again, thank you for your interest today, and we look forward to meeting again next month. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.